Welcome, everybody. This is a special Monday edition of Studio 6 Paranormal Entertainment. I am your host, Jay Hill, and we have a special guest today, or tonight, I should say, Susan Hill. No relation that I know of. I'm probably related to her husband or something.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Distant cousin. We had relatives that used to live that are from Virginia, and so
Yeah, it could be. You could be, for sure.
My family line, the Hill line, goes all the way back to the Revolutionary War. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my third great grandfathers was friends with John Adams.
Okay. Yeah, I go back there too. I can be in the Daughters of the Revolutionary War, whatever it was, that thing that you can be in.
Yeah.
I never joined it though. So because I have relatives too. So yeah, we might be at some point,
Very well could
you
be.
never know. Yeah. Yeah.
So how you doing?
Good. Recovering from the weekend. We had family up and we did Easter egg hunts and all the good stuff. So yeah. Yeah, just kind of busy Monday. It was a Monday for sure.
Right.
Yeah,
but, I had a little bit of an issue last night. I was in the ER because of my pancreas. So, but yeah, I'm hanging in there. So.
Well, good. I'm glad you're feeling better because that can be kind of a nasty thing. I'm sure you know. So.
Yeah, I do very much so.
Yeah.
So yes. For people who don't know who Susan Hill is, she's an intuitive medium. She's an all-around, and I have to say this, but she's a cool chick.
Well, thank you.
I love talking to her. I've known her for a while now, and it's finally come to fruition that I got her on the show. So I'm glad, and I welcome you. And,
thank you. I'm glad to be here. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so why don't you tell my viewers and my listeners a little bit about what you do?
Sure. I am an intuitive medium, and I channel, but I don't trans channel. So I call myself an intuitive medium, but I'm clairaudient. I'm a little bit different because I don't trans channel. So I get the the intuitive download with the visions and the feeling and the empathic feeling and everything, but I also get words. I can get words, phrases, very clear most of the time. So it's, and this came on, the first download that I got was in June. It was June 1st of 2020. And I was sitting in my living room. I was drinking my coffee. I had my dogs, I had the TV on. Just a normal morning. It was kind of quiet. And so I was drinking my coffee and I heard this loud, or I thought it was loud. I'm not sure. This loud frequency, like this tone or frequency that was coming, I thought from the television, because I turned the television down and, or turned it off actually, but I still heard it. And so, and it was almost like ear piercing. And, I remember covering my ear, and as I was covering my ear, I was taking a sip of coffee, and it was right at that moment that I could hear language through the tone. Like I could hear words, I could translate it. So I guess that's what you would call it. I don't know, but I could hear it. I could hear what they were saying. And it was like, it's like a combination between an old computer booting up and singing bowls. Mm-hmm. So it's like a combination of that. And so what they said was, and at the time, let me just tell you, I knew nothing about this stuff. Nothing. Right. I knew nothing. And, but I did have a sense of, I knew there was something more because I was very sensitive as a child, but it was more of the, what most people know is like paranormal, like the ghost stories and the spirits and all of that stuff. I knew about that more. But what they said was, "Good morning, Susan. This is the Syrian Council. We are transmitting from Sirius B." And I had no clue, nothing about any of that. I didn't know any of that. And I was just shocked. And like I said, I was covering my ear and taking a sip of coffee. And as soon as I heard those words come through that sound, I spit my coffee all over the floor. I mean, I was just shocked. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was going on. And I just sat there for a moment, and I felt okay. Like this is a good thing. I don't know what this is, but we're going to go with it. And I went and got a journal, and that's when I started journaling all of everything that they were coming through with. And I have stacks of journals at this point, So it's been like a journey for sure. And I've learned so much. I've learned a lot from them. Like,
Right.
but you've also
helped a lot of people too.
Yeah. Since that moment, and I, kind of got into my path. Since that, then I'm helping people kind of open up their, I guess, broaden their horizons a little bit, because I'm here in the South, so it's very indoctrinated and traditional, which is great. I mean, that's the way I grew up, and I kind of come to this place where I understand that I came here for a reason. I came to this geographical place for a reason, and I'm here because I can meet those people there, because that's my foundation. And I can meet them there. I understand it because I have a lot of people coming to me, in that area, like wanting to fill in those holes, having questions about the religious side. And so, yeah, we're just kind of molding that path for them a little bit, and offering them a broader horizon about things, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, when you first started experiencing this, was it something?
I can't hear you.
Sorry about that.
I lost you for a minute.
Yeah, no, my computer needs to update, so it doesn't like me very much right now, but it'll have to over. So sorry about that, folks. So what I was saying, when you realized that you were gifted like this, or that you had experienced this type of thing, was it something that it was hard to stomach? I mean, not really stomach, I should say. Was it hard to understand what it was and to deal with? And I'm like, okay, am I going crazy, or am I, is this something that's really happening? Or because I had to go through that myself. With my gift, I had to think, okay, I'm not crazy. This is happening for a reason, and there are a lot of people that question that. Am I going crazy, or am I hearing things, or do I have schizophrenia, or
Right.
Society teaches us that these things aren't normal. There's only a collective group of people that will understand that, hey, this is normal. This is what happens. But the vast majority of people do not understand that this is real, that this is out there. You know what I mean? That it's you're not going crazy. It's not schizophrenia. It's not. I mean, well, maybe for some, but I mean, you know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, I did. I experienced that.
Wow, what is going on? Well, I just lost my guest, so I'm sure she'll come back. But yeah, it's this is kind of crazy with the, I don't know if it's the internet connection or whatnot, but anyways, so yeah, so my guest is basically, she's an intuitive medium, and she is very knowledgeable on spiritual things and spiritual ideas and connecting with her guides and her angels and all that. And she's taught me so much just on that topic alone. And, so hopefully get her back here in a minute. But let me see here. There she is.
Yes.
Okay. See,
Was that
it
you or
happened
me?
happened to me, and it happened to you. So I don't
Oh
know.
gosh. Yeah. Sorry about that. I was just sitting
No.
here. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to go back to what we were talking about, I did go through that moment um of thinking, that maybe there was something wrong, I guess.
Mhm.
And I actually did go to see a doctor, and just kind of make sure, I guess.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, and they couldn't find anything. They did all like the cognitive tests, they did blood work, they did everything, they couldn't find a thing. And they wanted to tell me that I was having depression. And I'm like, no, I'm not depressed. That's not what's happening. So I just kind of rolled with it. But I will say, I had a little bit of an advantage because I was familiar with, like I was saying, like the paranormal research, like the but not that. I mean, it was more of human souls, I guess,
Right.
or human
Right.
spirits. It was that kind of side of it. And specifically, I don't know, a year prior to when that happened. And I think now that they were kind of warming me up to this moment, about a year prior, I was really heavily into like ITC research. So I did have that kind of foundation, and so I knew that there was more. I'm very spiritual as well. So I knew that, I knew that there were other things, but I was not familiar with like the cosmic end of it, our
Right.
cosmos and
Right.
other beings, other civilizations, inter and extra dimensional.
Right.
I knew nothing of that.
So people not realizing what ITC is, can you explain a little bit of what ITC is?
Yes. ITC is instrumental transcommunication, and where you can actually pick up voices, disembodied voices of, dearly departed, family, friends, whoever. And you can actually record them. There's different equipment that you can use to do that. There's actually apps. There's different things like the DR60 recorder that they had out in the 90s, the Panasonic DR60. That works really well, and I had one of those. I didn't use it that very much though. So I sold it. But there's different things that you can use, different kind of equipment that you can use to get those voices and record those voices, and then go back and review what is being said, because a lot of times it's not very clear. Sometimes it is. But I was very interested in that. And so I was kind of into that world before this happened. So I had a little bit of a foundation there. And I was always fascinated with paranormal,
Right.
So I kind of had that, but I can see where people that aren't there, and then this happens to them, or it could happen to them, they would probably they wouldn't know where to turn, for that. They would think that there was something going on because they don't have a foundation of knowing other things, their belief system doesn't go there. So,
do you still do a little bit of ITC work?
I do for fun. I do just to see what I can get. And what I've found is I've always had a really strong connection. So I always got really good results. And you can actually use your cell phone. And the video option on your cell phone is better than actually the microphone or, recording or something. The video option is much easier to do that. And you have to have an ear for it. I mean, you have to hear the fluctuations in the sounds in the environment to hear the voices. Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I actually do some of that, when I'm at a haunted location or something like that. I basically kind of use my gifts to communicate in that aspect, and it really hasn't done me wrong, so to speak. So
Right.
I just trust my instincts and my intuition and my gifts and stuff like that. So, but yeah, there's other times where I'll use a piece of equipment or something like that that helps out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
let me see. So basically, when you were talking about being an intuitive and experiencing these things and learning this, going back a little bit to you went through all the testing and you did all this stuff, and then you realize, okay, this is who I am, and I'm not crazy.
Right.
I'm not,
Yeah.
So you kind of have to. Some people, for their own peace of mind, want to be able to get past that so that they don't have to keep, referencing back and saying, okay, is there something wrong with me? But
Mhm.
so kind of go a little bit, beyond that. After you realize this is who I am and this is what I do, what kind of things that you experienced?
Oh gosh. Well, for a while, like what was consistent was were the transmissions, and I could hear, hear them. And so then at that point, I kind of inadvertently got into meditation, which I never meditated before. And because I wanted to connect with these beings, I would get in a quiet place like you do during meditation and kind of focus in on that. So I didn't really realize it, but I was really going into a meditative state at that point. I really didn't know what meditation was. So I was doing that to purposely try to connect with them, and it worked, And so, and sometimes I'm in a semi-trance state where I can hardly read my writing, but I'm conscious enough where I can write down what they're saying word for word. And so that was like the consistent experiences that I was having, right after that first experience. And then, I was seeing it kind of amped up a little bit from there. I would think I see something like in the night sky or in the sky or something like that. And so I started noticing more, like my awareness in all areas opened up. Right. And, I dove into more of the spiritual world and learned more about what exactly meditation is and how to, there's not really, well, I mean, there's guidelines, but you can go outside and just sit and meditate. You don't have to do anything fancy, but learn more of the ways to meditate and the purpose behind it. I dove into the reasons behind things, and but yeah, I would see what I thought were like ships or something in the sky, and started taking pictures. I started getting a lot of evidence that way, and lucid experiences was another thing that I was having. And they would pop in about every few weeks, these lucid experiences. And it was like you were actually there with these beings. I mean, you are basically, in an astral state. And so really, I was learning along the way of what all this is. And I didn't know what being in an astral state was or a lucid experience until I had one. And then so I'd have these experiences, and then I would go and learn about what they are or what they were, or what was happening. And same thing with the transmissions. They would come through with words or phrases I didn't even know how to spell or what the meaning was behind some of these words or the concepts that they were telling me. And so I would go and find a reputable source to kind of, guide me in direction of knowing what that word.
Some type of reference.
Yeah. So I've learned a lot of physics, and I am not that person. I'm just not, but I've learned a lot of physics and quantum physics and history and things like that. It's been an amazing journey. But yeah, I mean, I'd have experiences with beings, and the ones that are most clear to me that are like right in front of me are the angelics. I've had experiences with reptilians, hybrids, and mantis. So yeah, and the lucid experiences, and then experiences on ships. And I'll just say this too, when I was younger, when I was a little kid, I was very in tune, and I would tell my parents these stories about these experiences I was having, or a dream, a quote dream or whatever, and they just thought I was, had this crazy imagination. And what's amazing is a lot of what I've learned from the guides in these transmissions were matching up to the stories I was telling my mom when I was 3 and 4 years old. And she actually wrote them down. She wrote a lot of these down with the detail, so I can go back and reference reference that at this point. And I really didn't know, like I had forgotten that happened. And then she was like, oh yeah, well, you used to say those things and tell me these things when you were little. So she's looking for the notebook. We don't know where the notebook is. It's in a box somewhere in the back closet. So we're trying to dig that out. But yeah, it matches a lot of the stories that I was telling her as a kid, especially about past lives. And so now I know, like, the stories I was telling her were of actual lifetimes that I had. And I say past lives, but I've kind of learned now that there is no time. It all happens at once. You know what I mean? And but for reference point, when I'm talking to them, I'll use, past life or future or whatever, But no, I wasn't familiar with any of that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, we've talked in length at times, and I with my gifts and things that I've experienced, I wanted to run by a dream that I had, and I think I mentioned it to you before. But I had a dream where I was where Lincoln was shot.
Oh.
Okay. In my dream, he was shot, and we helped take his body down, and there was 3 people. In my dream there was 3 people, and I didn't know this, but I was helping him take him down the stairs and 2 across the street, and it became so intense that I basically had to separate myself, whoever person whoever I was at that point. I had to wake up because it was too much. And I remember coming out of those doors and then standing in the middle of the street watching them take him across the street. Now, I kind of just yesterday, I came across that movie Lincoln with Sally Field and Daniel Day-Lewis, I think his name is. And it's been out for a while, and I never really wanted to watch it. But when I was watching it, I just felt like I needed to watch it, and not realizing that next week is the day. It'll be 150 some odd years that next week will be his day. That he was killed on Saturday, the 15th, 1965, and I was like, wow. And I just have that, that connection there. Well, when I researched that of who was there after he was shot and people were helping, there was 3 people there that was documented. There was a doctor there, and then 2 unnamed men. Don't know who they were, but they were. And I didn't know that when I had that dream and I saw that they were. I was one of the 3, and it was really bizarre. So and remember when you said that that you told me a long time ago that you have been where major things have happened in time.
Yeah.
And that really just that was really kind of freaky.
That's amazing, because as you were telling me that, I think I do remember you mentioning that. I don't know if you told me the whole dream, but I would say that's not a dream. So because what came to me was actually a lucid experience. It was memory, and those memories are embedded in our DNA. It's just a matter of connecting that DNA and waking that up. So yeah, I mean, you were actually there. And when you were telling me about the 3 people, number 3 is significant anyway. Right. And so, and then when you were watching the movie and you found the information on it about who was there with him, I immediately got that you're one of the extra 2 people. So
I got that. It was just bizarre. I mean, I didn't know that information before. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's something about I loved President Lincoln, as a person, and studying him. Something keeps telling me that I need to kind of research more. And living, in Wisconsin on the border of Illinois,
right.
I want to be able to. I've been to Springfield. I've been to where his grave is when I was real little, but I want to go back there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's things like that I experience, and having lucid dreams or visions, so to speak, and I mean, and they don't come. And what a lot of people understand is they don't always, and even for you, I'm sure that they don't always come constantly.
Yeah, no.
it's moments. The way I look at it is, it's moments in time that present themselves in a way to make you pay attention.
Right. Right.
You know,
And they'll present in a time in your experience, that your reality that you're experiencing currently, they'll present themselves when you need it, something that you need to learn or remember. You may not even realize what that is, but it's something that you need at that time. So it will come through when it's needed, and only what is needed. You may not remember everything about that moment, but what you needed to remember and what's good for your benefit and your growth will be presented to you, and you'll remember that. Yeah.
Right. So if anybody has a question and they want to post on here for Susan, I'll be happy to put it up there and she can answer.
Yeah.
I have my guest Susan Hill, the intuitive medium, is very very. I just can't say it so much about you, because I mean, you're awesome, and I
Thank you.
love the work that you do, and it's just enjoyable to be able to talk to you. So getting back a little bit to like the ITC and the paranormal, did you do some of the paranormal investigations by yourself, or did you have a team, or did you have?
No, I did some of the ITC work alone, because I was just, had the equipment or my phone or the recorder or whatever, and I would just kind of play around with it. It wasn't anything formal. I've been on a few investigations, again, nothing formal. So I just never really dove into it like a lot of people do, and I think it's fun. And I there's some people that want me to do some in the near future for some of the like historical places here that are close by, and I'm like, sure, I can do that. But I, like you, I want to use my gifts instead of having a recorder or something like that. But I mean, also have that, but use more of my gifts. But no, I didn't. I wasn't real, like, with a group or anything. No, I mean, I was really kind of by myself, and just, was interested in the whole thing, and just kind of did it for a hobby, basically, by myself. But I have some great evidence. I still have the recordings of, the videos I had, and I'll go back and look at them sometimes, but just like the
and think, hey, I missed this.
Yeah, because I think your gifts, I think they, especially with like your hearing, I think it really gets tuned in, and then you go back and listen to a recording from 2 years ago, and you're like, I missed that entire sentence, So yeah, I do that. Yeah.
Tell us, tell my listeners about one of your creepiest moments when you were getting ITCs, something that was like kind of made you step back.
Yeah, this was, I'll tell you when it was. It was, I'm sure you're familiar with some of the ITC apps that are out there.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't use apps anymore, but I got a recording of, I don't know. I mean, it was very clear, and it was kind of long. I mean, it was a few beings coming in, and they were kind of throwing at me things that were way in my past. I mean, they weren't bad. I mean, we've all done stuff, right? When we were teenagers or college or whatever. And they were bringing up things that nobody knew, nobody knew. And I mean, things that like I had forgotten, and really kind of making fun, picking, I guess, So I could probably say these are human spirits that were just wanting to be mischievous and disgruntled, and they're just going to pick on somebody or something. I don't know. I don't know. But that was like, wow, that freaked me out, because nobody knew these things. And I mean, I'm a 70s kid, so there's not any, like, we didn't have cell phones and stuff to have evidence of stuff that we did, So I mean, it was like, I mean, nobody knew this stuff, and that kind of freaked me out. I've had other things where I'd see like people walking in front of me, like going into another room. and then nobody's there, and I mean, your normal things like that. But when I got that recording of personal things that nobody knows, and they were coming through and just kind of being ugly about it,
They were bullying you.
They were bullying me, yeah. And now I was like, nope, I am done. I am not using this device anymore. So and it never happened again. That was the only time that it did. And I would say that's probably one of the biggest moments recently. I mean, I'm sure I've had some other ones, but I've not really been, I didn't, like I said, I didn't do any investigations, formal investigations. So I didn't have those big moments of, getting, the scary punch in the gut or whatever,
Right.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit about frequencies.
Okay.
Frequencies in certain locations, or even with people. I mean, when you come across certain people that have different frequency, can you explain a little bit to my listeners about the frequency that people carry and can emit that can actually, affect other things, like, other people, other buildings or whatever?
Yeah. And I think I know what you're asking. Like, I mean, our body is like full of electricity anyway. Each cell has an electrical charge to it. I don't remember what that number is, but it is enormous. If you look at just our human body, I mean, it's like, you wouldn't believe that we actually carry this energetic field around us that we do. And that's where Reiki comes from. That's what that is. And but when you come across somebody that's in a lower frequency, and if you are in a lower vibrational state, your electromagnetic field from your body is not going to be as intense, I guess, or as high, or as strong, or whatever. It's going to be a lower frequency, lower vibration. And when you're in tune with that, you can actually feel that, with someone else. And then stepping into, if you want to talk about Reiki, for example, if you are really in tune with your energetic field, you can pinpoint things on another person's body that needs attention, that needs healing, that needs balancing. And but we all have it. It's your auric field, your energetic field, and you can take pictures of it with a special camera. There's different colors. And there's, 7 points in your body, the 7 chakras. And so, I've learned all of that too. I've learned all of that in the last couple of years in detail. And so it's pretty amazing because, like I said, when you're really in tune with it, you can feel someone else's energetic level, if you want to call it that. It's just like, I mean, we all can do it. We all have these gifts. And, most people that are not aware, they can be with somebody that maybe kind of brings them down. Well, that's what that is. That's that energetic field. They're like, they're not jiving with that person too well.
Right. So how would you suggest that with somebody unaware, or is experiencing, like, say these 2 people go out and to a club and have a good time, but for some reason this other person's, their frequency, I use frequency because it's just easier to describe it. You know what I mean? So say their frequency is really not jiving, so to speak, with the other person, and it's bringing them down. What can that person that's experiencing that to protect themselves from people that actually can, you know what I mean? That angst.
Right. Well, for what I'll tell you what I do, just my personal experience is, I try to envision, and I do this just going to the grocery store, so that you do have that protection, I guess, of all that, because I'm an empath, and a lot of us are, and we'll soak up everybody's stuff, when we're in big crowds or whatever. So what I do is I just envision the divine light coming down and just surrounding, number one, kind of filling me up, and then, surrounding me like in a bubble. And when you envision something, that actual vision is actually taking place and is real on some level. So,
Mhm.
it's very important for people to know that. So when you're envisioning that it's actually happening, you may not see it in your physical reality, but it is happening. And so that's what I do is I kind of, put myself in a bubble where I
I do the
am
same thing
protected. Yeah, where I'm protected from
every
that.
morning.
Yeah, yeah. You don't have to, especially if you are very empathic. And I've met people that aren't, and I'm like, I wish I could have a little bit of that, but I have my gifts for a reason. So that's, I've
Right,
come to appreciate them actually.
right,
So yeah.
right. I think that there's a lot of people out there who have experienced, on some level, the type of gifts that people have and the frequencies that people give off, and they
Hmm.
don't quite understand. What would you recommend to somebody who is listening, maybe that is wanting to explore a little bit more into, realizing if they have gifts or not, or it's something that they're seriously thinking about doing,
Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
would say the first step is to kind of think to yourself, what are you drawn to?
mhm.
And I say that because of my own experience. I was always drawn to communication with other, with spirits, basically, to see if I could, get that. When I was a kid, I used to play with the Ouija board, for
Mhm.
example. So I was always drawn to the
You bad girl.
communication. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I didn't tell my mom though. I hid it from her because she would have had a fit. But yeah, so I mean I would ask myself, what are you drawn to? Because that's probably going to point you in the direction of what your strongest gifts are.
Mhm.
And we're all gifted. So I would think about that. And then to kind of get prepare yourself to help those gifts grow, I would really go to the basics and get, make sure that you like do some grounding and meditation. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, just something. And I
Mhm.
recommend doing it outside so that you
Mhm.
can connect with the earth's frequency and the earth's the Gaia, the soul of the earth, Mother Earth,
Right.
and get really like what the word means, grounded, and kind
Right.
of get connected with that.
A lot of
And
research.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Research
exactly.
whatever you're into. Is just that, go to the library, and I
Right,
love
right.
libraries are the best place to
They
sit
are.
quietly and to
Uh-huh.
research, especially,
Mhm. I
so
agree. I agree. Yeah, and find there is so much out there. There's so much information, and so when you're researching, if you don't know like good people to go to, you will listen to your intuition when you see something or read something or hear something or listen to a video. If it's not resonating with you, if it doesn't feel right, then
Mhm.
skip over it and find something else that you do connect with, because that is your intuition saying,
Mhm.
hey, this fits for me. This is what I
Mhm.
understand. This is what I need to know right now.
Mhm.
And even if you skip over some of this information because it's too much or it doesn't feel right, um, you may come back to it later and
Right.
you may have a better understanding of it, you know?
Right. And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people that don't realize that, having that ability to, you know, experience some of these things, or they want to, grow in their gifts or whatnot, and then that transcends into your normal daily life. I mean, you go to
Mhm.
work and you experience things, that, you know, it's everywhere. This
It
energy
is.
field is
Yeah.
just, we're all made of energy, you know what I mean? So, I mean, you're
Yes.
gonna clash with other people, and you're gonna meet somebody like, "I really don't like that person. I just have this feeling," and that's a kind of an instant that there's a
Yeah.
reason for that, or
There is. There is a reason.
there could
Mhm.
be, you're maybe on some people, it could be their ego is just kind of, feeling threatened, you know what I mean? So,
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
I think people need to realize too that, all these energy fields and these frequencies, they're all out there, and
Yeah,
if you
they are.
can guard yourself, or you can kind of do your research and kind of harness some of that so that you can carve, pave out a path, you know what I mean, that
Mhm.
you can
Mhm.
walk through,
Yeah.
kind of keep that. And that's why I always envision myself when I'm having a bad day or whatever. I just envision, walking on a path a clear path, even if I'm
Mm-hmm.
just walking and I know that there's going to be some obstacles, but it's just keeping that old adage of stay on the path, and
Right.
I truly
Right.
believe.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I mean that, like, we were saying earlier, how when you envision something that's actually happening, so you are clearing your path and making that
Hmm.
a clear way for you, and it
Hmm.
probably settles you in some way, I would imagine.
Right.
Breath work is huge too, because the breath is everything for life,
Hmm.
and so breath work, grounding, just kind of getting in touch with your surroundings.
Hmm.
And when you're talking about being around people, there's places too that will affect your energy.
Right.
There's higher vibrational places just around the globe,
Hmm.
around your neighborhoods. I mean, I think that, well, I kind of know that we're kind of sitting on a vortex right here, a little bit of some sort of a ley line.
Right.
It's not huge, but it's charged, and
Hmm.
if you're sensitive, you can feel it when you come here. Um, and things like that, like there's different places around the globe that are supercharged. And
Hmm.
there's, even in the paranormal field, we know when we go into a house or something that has that bad juju there,
Yeah.
you're you're gonna,
Yeah.
because whatever happened there leaves an imprint, you know
Hmm.
and so
Hmm.
that's important to know too, that you do leave an imprint wherever you are.
Yeah.
And
You
so
do leave a little piece of you, you
yeah,
know, and
yeah,
and that
right.
that just goes without saying that. you know
Mm-hmm.
I believe this, do good, be good, and be genuine, because
Mm-hmm.
I tell you, the one thing that I see a lot more as of late are there's so much anger and hate, and all that energy is around, and it's like thick. It's like thick as
Yeah, it
fog,
is.
and it's
Yes.
really sad. So, and nowadays you really have to protect yourself,
Yes,
and just
absolutely.
basically just, you guard yourself, because you're going to run into a lot of different energies and frequencies that are going to not mesh with you very well, and
Yeah.
you're going to have to. And a lot of people, they go about their daily lives and they just don't pay attention, and I'm just like,
Yeah, they
I just
do.
want to tell everybody to
Yeah.
pay attention, just
Right.
be aware
No,
of your
I
surroundings,
agree. Yeah.
be mindful of where you're at, so.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, and be mindful of others. And the other thing that I had to learn to do, and I may have inadvertently done some of this when I started down this path of being this intuitive channel and this clairaudient person, is and a lot of it had to do with what I learned from them. It's just amazing. But just to kind of rid yourself of things that do not serve you. I no longer watch TV,
Hmm.
for example, because that can cause a lot of stress. I mean, the news, for example, can cause a lot of stress and fear. If
I
it's
agree.
fear based, you don't really need to be listening to it or watching
You
it
don't
or
need to
whatever.
subject yourself to that.
Right, right. Yeah. And just to
Yeah.
recognize what those things are, that will help strengthen you, because when you're around it all the time, it kind of brings you down and you don't realize it. So make a conscious effort to kind of clear yourself of those things, and you'll notice yourself becoming more, stronger, I
Hmm.
guess, and more
Yeah,
aware.
I believe that keeping your circle kind of small in that sense, and what you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, absolutely.
the more you don't pay attention to that, you can probably let somebody in that just shouldn't be there.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
Right,
and
right.
so I run into that quite a bit. Just being out and about, I can go to Walmart and
Yeah.
experience that. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, yeah, I do
I
too.
mean,
That's what I was saying earlier. When I go to the store, I put that
mhm,
protection around me. I envision that bubble.
right.
Um,
And you
so
you you really have to just, it's just a lot of people are not mindful of their surroundings,
no, they're not.
and
Mm-mm. And,
So,
you know, another thing that I've learned on this journey recently in the last few years since this started was that we're all connected.
mhm,
Everything is quantum entanglement with each other, even with the trees and the animals and the earth and everything. I mean, we're just entangled with it all. So what we do does affect others, even if it's not directly. um, but if we can just start realizing that, then maybe other people will start realizing that as well. Because
mhm,
like you said, there's a lot of people walking around that do not have no awareness at all, or
right.
pay attention to anything. So, and it just starts really with yourself, and that's the main one.
Now, do
Um,
you think that some of these people, or there's probably a lot of people that are just not aware, or they go about their daily lives and they just, not that they don't care, but it's not something they're into. Do you think that that is um, like on purpose? I mean, do you think that it's something, it's their path, and everybody has their own path, but
right.
there's lots of people that aren't into the spiritual or the paranormal, but there's also people who aren't into being a mechanic either, or being a
Yeah.
chef, or you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So I think that there's so many different factors that are involved with that not everybody is going to experience or to be, on that same path or
Hmm.
similar path. I
Hmm.
like to surround myself with like-minded people like you,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
friends I have in the paranormal field. But I've run into people that totally do not believe in any of that, and the spiritual and the paranormal, don't want anything to
Hmm.
do with it. But then again, it's kind of like, and that's fine, and I can embrace that they, that's their
Right.
path, and that's why I always say, if somebody's not into something that you don't like, don't take it personal. It's
Right.
it's their path.
Yeah.
But doesn't mean that
Yeah.
you can't, talk with them and influence them into thinking, positive about something, and
Yeah.
I believe in
Yeah.
helping people, and I always have,
I do too.
and
Hmm.
I, when I grew up, when I was growing up, and even in high school, I always had, women or girls in high school would always want to sit next to me at lunch, or hang out with me, because of that they said I was a good listener, and my wife says the same thing, that I was a good listener,
Uh-huh.
and that they could tell me anything. But that's part of your makeup. That's part of
Yeah.
who you are. People that want to tell you their life story, and you're like, why is this person telling me their life story? But that's
Yeah.
because of the fact
Yeah.
that the key word is you're approachable. Being
Hmm.
approachable in a time and place, in the world today, means a lot. Because if you're
It
not
does. Yeah.
approachable, I mean, if you're not approachable, it can be a very lonely existence. And I really
Yeah,
think
that's
that
true.
people are just
Hmm.
not realizing that.
Hmm.
But
Yes.
people don't want to alienate other people either, because people alienate everybody because of their beliefs, or because of this. Be genuine, be yourself.
Hmm.
Not
Hmm.
everybody's gonna think the way you think. You know.
Right. Right. Right.
So.
And that's a huge thing that I have learned also. I was kind of open anyway, to a
Hmm.
degree. But I've gotten more so being on this path of being open and available for people,
Hmm.
and a safe place for people. So I totally agree with that. But as far as the people that you were talking about in the beginning of just not being aware of anything, I'm like, I think that's their path, and they serve a
Hmm.
purpose not only for themselves but for the collective. We have to have that because we have to have that balance. So there's going to be people that just don't. They're never going to get it. They're never going to go there. They're not going to ever believe in that. They're not going to be spiritual, and that's just who they are.
Right.
That's who their path. And I've learned that before we come into these cycles, before we incarnate, we kind of make some sort of a plan. We have some
Right.
sort of a plan that we're going to play out down here on the earth's surface. And we may veer off of that plan or that path a little bit and
Hmm.
experience, make it a little bit colorful, but we'll always kind of wind back up on the path that we
Right.
originally signed up for, basically, or said we wanted to experience. And I don't like to say soul contracts. I use that term, but I don't really like to think that we're locked into a contract, because I'm not so sure we are. It's more of what the things that we want to experience and learn. That's how I kind of, yeah.
We all have free will,
Yeah.
So, and like I've told people before, talking about being on their own path, and you talk about, everybody's different. They experience things different. They may go off the path or do whatever, but they kind of find their way back. I kind of live by analogies, and it's just like I tell people that if they're going through something bad or they're experiencing something bad or whatever, and I'm kind of like, you got to picture it like you're on the path, you're in the car, but then you take a shortcut, and then all of a sudden you've got 4 flat tires and you're stuck. I mean, you can either, just sit there and not do anything about it, or you could just, make it worse, or you could fix that and try to move on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or to get yourself back on that path, because, as my mother would always say, with, things that happen in life, it's just a small bump in the road.
That's right.
And some roads, some of them have bigger bumps, but you still can get through some of that. And I try to explain to people, to even friends of mine, or if somebody that's going through depression or, something traumatic or something that they cannot get past, I always tell them, don't live in fear of your life, but just live your life.
Right. Right. I like that. I love that.
And I think that people are so quick to automatically assume that their life isn't going to get any better, and they're going to be this way forever. And all these are all moments in time.
They are.
Nothing set in stone. They're just moments in time that you can eventually change and turn around. And people don't quite understand that.
Yeah, they don't. And one thing that I also, because I agree with all of that, and I'll say this too, that even those bumps and those hard times that we feel like are never going to end, and that we're never going to get through this, whatever it is, we need to learn something from that, and we are experiencing those things to learn from that, or to have some sort of outcome, not only for us but for others that are involved. It's a collective thing, with the immediate people that are involved in that situation. They're all getting something from it, as miserable as it might be, or as sad, or as heart-wrenching, or whatever it might be, fearful. It is all for the greater good. And if you can look at it that way, you can get through those moments easier. And that's something that I had to learn. You learn so much on this path, being more in the spiritual world, and being open to any and all possibilities, and any and all people, and opening your hearts with love, because that's really all there is love. And you become more open to accepting moments like that, the unpleasant moments.
Right. Those are all just moments in time. It's just a moment. It's just a moment, and it's not your whole life.
No, not at all.
And people that really, who are going through terrible, terrible things, or experiencing something, if there's anybody out there that's listening that has a terrible, or that's experiencing a terrible moment or something, it's just a moment. It's a moment that will pass, but it depends on how you handle that moment. It's
that's
like
right.
I said, if you are taking that shortcut to get quicker to the end, you're going to run into some snags. You're going to run into more bumps. You're going to run it. It's kind of like you have to be disciplined in the fact of sticking with the path that you're on. As bad as certain things suck and are terrible, it's not always going to be like that unless you let it. And that's where the spirituality aspect comes in for me, and for others who need a voice, or need somebody to talk to, or something like that. It's just one of those things that people don't understand, that outlet is out there.
It is.
And
it is.
I mean, there's people like you, there's people like me, we've helped quite a few people over the years, and just to stay positive,
Yes.
and just I believe that positive breeds positive, but negative also breeds negative.
It does.
And we have enough in the world now that we don't need any more.
No, that's right. We don't.
Be that beacon of, be that beacon of light for somebody in need. You know what I mean? And that way you can just, be the example. So, yeah. So yeah, it seems to be that for some reason my internet and everybody's internet's kind of going haywire.
Yeah, it's been a little crazy today. I've had trouble with my phone too. Yeah, I don't know. It's not very good today.
No,
so,
but I wanted to let everybody know, that if anybody needs anything, if you guys are in need of something where you don't think that you can get over something, or you have a terrible moment, which is all it is just a moment. You can reach out to Susan or myself, or you can reach out to the show, Studio 6 Paranormal Entertainment. You can send me a message, whatever you're going through. I'm a firm believer in being able to help people get through a moment in their life.
absolutely.
So that they can to return to that path that they were meant to be on, and everybody's on.
Right.
Everybody has their own path. That's why we're all individuals, So, but we're getting close to the time, and I want to thank you again for being on. This has just been fantastic.
Yes,
but,
yes.
I want to be able to have you kind of tell everybody where they can find you, and like you if you have a website.
I do. It's theangelbridge.com is the website, and you can contact me there. My email number, everything is there. I'm pretty easy to come. Facebook, you can find me on Facebook as well. But theangelbridge.com is my website, and you can read a little bit about who I am and what I do there as well. And just feel free to reach out anytime and message me there. Yeah.
It's been fantastic, everybody. I thank everybody for tuning in. The show that I do, I want to be able to engage with people and to help people, but also bring light to other people with my guests, and so that they can discover new people in the paranormal field, and in the spiritual world, and this and that. And I just think that it's important that everybody knows that everybody's voice is important, no matter what your background is. Everybody's important, and there's not one person that is not. And just because we all have those fast moments in time, they're just moments. So I want to thank everybody again, and
thank you, Jay.
This has been a lot of fun, and I want to let everybody know too that you'll find this on YouTube, and we'll be on Facebook, and I will upload this video, this audio podcast, to everywhere you can get your podcasts. I am also on Good Pods. It's an app that I use, and I really like it. The creator is the people that created this app are fantastic. So you can follow me over on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and you can follow me on Good Pods and on any basic app that you can get your podcast. So on behalf of myself and of Susan, we want to thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Jay.
You're very welcome, and I totally appreciate this. This has been
it's been great.
So, thanks to everybody.
Thank you.